Hello, Sam.
Hi, André. How are you doing?
I'm very good. How are you?
Good. Not too bad. Not too bad. Here we are once again.
We are indeed joined by the very talented and gifted
Matt Ross.
Good evening.
There you go. We said it in unison. I love that.
You did. I like that. Well, André was slightly out, but anyway.
I'll pitch correct it.
Bring it down.
Maybe we'll actually just put him out.
Just got my mic.
Right. So, guys, we can tell what kind of episode this is going to be. Yes. Excellent. So, Matt, you're, as we have already mentioned, a talented and gifted author, and you've written 2 books and a third to come out soon.
Yes, there's a third coming out early next year, so that would be February.
Fantastic.
That'll be the end of that trilogy, and then on to something new. So.
And of course, let's showcase the 2 that you have written.
Why not?
Yeah. So the first one, of course, Dawn of the Ripper.
Yes.
Book 1.
Book 1.
There it is. And the second, book 2, Insania.
Yeah.
So what's obviously I have read most of this one. So apologies, I couldn't quite finish it both in time. But let's hear it from you.
Could do better then, maybe on your report card for that.
Well, you know, I had this whole thing set up where I was expecting you to ask me if I'd read them, and I had I was being like, well, yeah, Matt, that's quite a confrontational question to ask.
It is. Well, I'll ask you then.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll have you know that so long as there are no follow-up questions, I have read it. It's the best book I've ever read, as well as being the worst book I've ever read, because it's the only book I've ever read. Yeah. So it's I will say, before we carry on, that the stuff I have read is excellent.
Thank you.
Like, absolutely grippingly excellent.
Thank you.
But let's hear it from you, Matt. Tell us where this has come from, what these books have been, you know, what inspired you, where you've come from to become an author. Tell us.
I think really, well, what I try to do is something different. When I picked this subject to write about, there's been many films and many books written about Jack the Ripper over the years, but nothing, you know, at the beginning, that sort of side of his life. Where did he come from? How did he start? What was he like? And I thought that was an interesting concept to begin with, because it hadn't been done before. And I think if you're going to write, do something different, be different, you know, be brave, and don't just write 4 people go in a woods, 2 come out, one of them did it. You know, we've had that. Well, we hope one of them's done it anyway. But it's that same old scenario that you get.
It becomes a trope, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. And I want, when I'm writing, I want to write something that's different and a little bit sort of left of centre, if you like, something that makes you think about. So that's really where the idea came across. Yeah. And I do like dark thriller crimes. I grew up on them, you know, and I think there's something edgy about them. I quite like that, going down that path of exploration of people's feelings and the dialogue that goes with it. So yeah, that's really where it came from.
Excellent. So where's so you told us where that book has come from, or the series of books have come from, in terms of why the genre kind of grips you. But just, I mean, neither of us are authors. We are not in that world.
No.
So we are very much interested and, you know, really, really inquisitive as to why someone would even think, do you know what, I've got a book in me, I've got 2 books in me, I've got 3 books in me, let me do it, let me go the whole distance. Where does that come from?
I think it comes from a passion from actually loving to tell stories. That's what it comes from. When my kids were young, I would tell them stories. I've always loved telling stories. I have a passion with film and books, obviously. And I wanted then, you know, after the pandemic, I was just talking to you earlier about that, you know, there was a change. Everybody wanted to change what you were doing. And this was an opportunity to then say, no, I'm going to actually sit down and write a book and write, you know, that's what I want to do now with my life. We're given this opportunity and I want to do that now. And I think that that's where that passion comes from, way back as a child when I would sit and read books late at night over and over again. And then it never really left. But, you know, you have children, you have to go to work, all these things. And then sometimes it comes a bit later on in life. But then you want to sit down and you think, no, this is the right time to do it, and to write something that you really have a passion about. So those stories come from years of reading and watching and hearing and listening and looking at human nature and wondering, what if?
Yes.
You know, and that's the great question, what if? And when you start a book, I think everybody says they have a book in them, but to actually write a book is quite a task. So anybody who writes a book, whatever that book is, I have a great deal of respect because it takes hours and hours and hours and hours of work. I think Stephen King said once that writing is a series of rewrites. And that's kind of what it is. You never quite finish it until you really are done with it. But other than that, you're going over it and over it and over it. Yeah. And it is, it's a long road to write a book. You know, it's 322 pages there. And if you look on my floor in my office, it's like stacks of reams of paper, you know, of rewrites. And so it's a process. And it's a great deal of time and effort goes into that. And then the team around you. If you're a self-published author, or even if you're a published author, you know, you have certain, it's not always the case that they'll do everything. So you have people around you that you have who help maybe with the jacket design. All these elements are important. So it's really very much also about running a business. It is a business at the end of the day, and you have to run it like that as well. So it's not just that creative side. You need that business head as well to think, how do you push that forward? Because there's you know, hundreds of thousands of books out there, and it's a competitive field. So you have to be, unless it's really why when I write something I want it to be different. I mean, there was an interview with John Lennon once, and the guy asked him at the height of their fame, and they asked him, they said, "What is it? How are you going to inspire a young kid watching this now to be like you, to be like John Lennon?" He sat back and he said, "Don't copy us. Whatever you do, just be original, just do what you want to do, but don't be us, because that's not cool, that's not rock and roll. It's about being individual and being brave and doing something different." And I think that's what I've always wanted to do. If I've committed to do this, it's doing something different, really.
That's so interesting and inspiring to hear. I think my first question for you is, so we talked about how much you used to read back when you were a kid, a young boy. Did the books come from back then, or were they then a product of you deciding, no, actually, I'm going to write, and then you had the time to think about what you wanted to write?
I think I throughout the years, I've had lots of ideas, and sometimes that idea there could be years old that I've had in the back of my mind, and I've started it, and then I've kind of put it away, put it to one side. I might have started another idea, put it away, come back to it, and it's that sort of process. And then I might pick it back up or go back to it, look at it, and think, actually, there's something more in this. Do the research, do the ideas, and map it out. My IT background, like yours, André, makes you a little bit more structured about how you go about things. So I will plan it out on 2 big whiteboards that are on my wall, and I'll pen it all out and map it out, so I know what the structure of the book will be about. Some people can sit and just write a book and not have any kind of plan necessarily. There are some famous authors who do that. I wouldn't do that. For me, I like to know, you know, how the chapters are going to flow, how the characters are going to develop. And those characters have come from lots of different areas from my past, people I've met, people I've spoken to, maybe years ago, but they're still there. And you write them down, you put them down somewhere, and all those notes come together to form that book, really.
I mean, I'm slightly concerned that you might have met some of these people, given what I've read.
Not naming names on it. No, there is a slight exaggeration. With anything artistic, there's a slight exaggeration there. I'm sure there may be people like that, but probably 150 years ago, one hopes. Not today. And certainly not that I've knowingly met and interviewed. So no, I think I think what happens is you meet someone and you talk to them, and you there's something else you see within that, and then you just build on that. And it's obviously nothing like the original person, but it's just elements of personality or traits of personality that gives you that inspiration to then create a character from that.
Cool.
Could be the way they move, could be the way they talked. It could be any little small thing that you pick up on, and you just bury it out deep inside, and then it comes out when you're writing.
I mean, the thing you say, all the bits you just mentioned there, and I don't want to give any spoilers away.
No, you can't.
I was going to be very careful with how I phrase it.
Yeah.
But I can absolutely see you doing exactly what you said. The whole everything mapped out.
Yes.
Because the way you've structured this, I that's been one of the most gripping things for me. So you start with this prologue that it almost has no context to it.
No.
And it's just a let's say the equivalent of a psychiatrist talking to, a family, distinguishing what is born evil and what is produced from their environment.
Yes.
And that's it. That's the prologue. It just gives us this kind of, interesting. You set the scene beautifully, but your character arc development around exploring their personalities, as well as doing this really interesting thing where concurrently you have maybe 3 or 4 chapters that are running alongside each other. And it's sort of, and as I was reading, I'll come back and think, this is picking up off this story trail. Yeah. And this is intertwining here. And it's just, makes it actually very easy for someone who's maybe not so used to reading this sort of genre.
Yeah.
To actually just pick it up and digest and say, I'm following these character arcs in a really organic way. It doesn't feel like it's jumping around. And also, I'm like, there's a character in here that's one of the protagonists that I find really annoying. It's like just shut up. I was like, just like get over yourself. But it's because of how you portrayed it. It's not just the stuff that they say or the context in which they say it. It is the whole picture that you paint of this, and it is one of the female characters that has this. You portray this sense of poise, whilst also. It's bizarrely this juxtaposition of having the paranormal as part of her job.
Yes.
But she's, poised, reserved, logical, fastidious. And those two worlds shouldn't collide, at least not in the ways that we conventionally think about it. Yeah. But my God, it makes her annoying.
Yes, it does. But that's what you want. You want to provoke that kind of, reaction to it, don't you?
Absolutely.
And that's what I tried to do. Because I think there are a lot of books that I've read, and they become very stale and they lose something. And the way I structured a book is kind of, I'm very driven by that sort of snappy, short paragraphs, the dialogue moving it along, and short chapters. Because we all live busy lives, and I think that it's good to keep that narrative moving at a pace. Yeah. And I don't think you can. People used to call this sort of padding out. They call it, where you're using maybe scenes or dialogue just because you've got nothing else better to say. Effectively, it's halfway through the book, and it suddenly dies. And I'm very conscious of that. So when you map it out, you have a really clear sense of how it should be reacting and how those characters intertwine with each other, as you said, through that dialogue, and you get to know them more. You might not like them, you might like them. I want a reaction where they're like, you don't like her, but someone down next read it will love that person, and that's what you want. That difference of opinion, but it's generating interest. It's generating. Means I've done my job.
Yeah, because you're invested. You're invested in the characters. Like so.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, but that's what you've got to do. Yeah,
and because you've got those short chapters, like I say, like each chapter is maybe a couple of pages. Yeah, I mean, maybe 5 was the longest. Yeah, and that it gives you that nice, as you say, that in the life we all live at the moment, just the whole bite-sized way I can just, okay, great. I now feel I've advanced in this story and understand the character arcs even better than I would have done had they been, as you say, things like padded out.
That's really good to hear from you, you know, because you're not used to that genre either.
No, not at all.
And I didn't, I like that genre, but I wanted to make it accessible to anybody who was reading. Yes. Also, there's someone I know who's read it recently who doesn't read that genre at all, but she was completely gripped by it because of exactly the same reasons as you've just said, because of the interaction between the characters and it just emits, some kind of emotion within her where she's reading it, and that's what I wanted. I wanted that connection. A lot of books don't have that connection, and I wanted something that you visually see and you visually, you could just feel yourself there in Brighton at that time with the, with the dirt and the grime and the poverty that there was in Victorian times, and that was an important description as well to make you feel you're actually living that.
Which is actually quite hard to do in the sense that, I mean, I say that like I know how to do it. I don't. But it's what I mean to say is that stereotypically, from someone who doesn't read this stuff normally, you either have it's the bustling London or it's the quiet village where there's one cottage in the corner. Yeah. And those things they are tropes. They've just become the tropes of what is that genre. Yeah. And another trope that you expertly avoid, at least from what my preconceptions are, is I expected to pick this up and read just lots of gory stuff.
Yeah.
Right. It just be very overly descriptive around, the blood, the guts, the etc. Yeah. But you do it very incisively, and it's not overdone, and it kind of gives enough for me to go, well, I feel the mutilative gore here, and it's just the chilling nature by which you describe that act happening from various different angles, and there's this theme of the throat being grabbed.
Yeah,
and every time you mention this, you've led up to it beautifully, and it's just
nice of you to say.
Yeah, and it just has it just really makes you feel in that moment, like when you're reading it, like you start to get a lump in your throat because it's like, okay, I think it's really taken me there.
Well, I think. I know you're collapsing, but I think also, there's literally, I don't think there's any swearing in it at all. And I've tried I wanted to make the book about the feeling of the words, and I didn't want to make it a sort of stabbing slasher of a novel,
which is my preconception,
which is easy to do, and
yeah.
everybody falls into that trap. But I wanted to make it far more chilling than that by creating the atmosphere, and with the dialogue and you can actually do that without saying, there's a head in the freezer, or he's sort of this lunatic going around stabbing and slicing, and that's been done so many times, and it actually doesn't stay with you. Whereas what I wanted to do was that to be unsettling enough that it did stay with you. Yeah. So you put the book down, you're going into the kitchen, or you just something making you look around, and it just stays with you. And that's what I think I've tried to do. And hopefully I have tried.
No, you have. And there's one, as you say that, there's one image I just want to talk about, which really sticks. Like, again, it must be because of how you've written it, but it really sticks, where, a victim in this story is you're recounting how they've told their child about breathing onto their window and putting a handprint on to say this is how you show how much you love mummy. And later in the chapter is her putting her bloodied handprint on the window saying, this is how much I love my son.
It's that connection, isn't it?
Yeah. But that really just hits you. But I mean, André, have you read like any kind of horror stuff in the genre?
So this is typically a genre that I would normally stay away from, because I just can't keep up with the gore. Gore is something that I really don't do very well. But actually, in speaking to Sam about it, I really want to give this a go and really want to read it, because Sam, the way you put up with me was like, I normally don't read these genres, but I highly recommend this one.
Genuinely
and as soon as I read that, I was like, yes, I'll absolutely give that a go. But I just find it so fascinating to hear, because when you meet someone, and going back to the whole building the characters, I find that whole process so interesting, because when you meet someone like Sam was saying earlier, you could have two different people. And one person will get on with that person, and the other person won't get on with that person. And to be able to portray that and to replicate that in the book, where you'll have some read it and be like, oh my God, the character was so annoying. But then you have someone else that read it and was like, oh my God, I really, really love her. I find that must take so much.
It does. It's going to be a fight. So you want to have that sort
You
of.
can start your own fight club over this.
Maybe we'll do it in the Carfax.
Oh, yeah.
You can come down. I mean, you know, you can come
a
down.
bit of Dawn of the Ripper cosplay, why not?
Talk to them at the Capitol. What is it we would do? But I think it's that's the thing, isn't it? You want that to carry on, and that's what you try to do. Is to write something that carries on. And I wouldn't have done it otherwise. I wouldn't have, I think I wanted to write a book that had longevity in it as well. The guy I use, who I use in the States for copy editing, he was a journalist, and also he's written about 30 books himself. So he's been there, done it, and he loved it. And he said, he saw it also as like this trilogy. He said, I think it will be there for a while because it is different, and it's telling a different story, and it hasn't been done before. I looked into doing it. I thought, this is crazy. No one's actually done. It's all about 1888 Whitechapel, but why not do something? Why not turn that and do something different and make it a bit more, interesting, and make the characters, like you say, you're going to have a spiritualist, and some people would say that's that wouldn't have happened, but at that time in Victorian England, spiritualism was huge. They were, the Victorians were crazy for it, as they were for science. There was also the other side, and they often clashed and combined, and they would have meetings in their houses and seances in their houses, as I've depicted there in the first or second chapter. That was a reality of those days, and they were obsessed with it. The Victorians were fascinating people. Anything new, they would embrace it. So I think it is an interesting area to write about, and just to do the research on as well. And Brighton at that time, having born and bred in Brighton, so it's interesting to see the old chain pier, which is on the front of the book, which isn't there anymore, but just to get an old photo of that and talk about that and sort of just bring it back to life. It's just interesting. And I think it just adds that bit of, hopefully adds that bit of mystery into it.
Well, I think, absolutely. And one of the things I was going to ask you around the trilogy side of things, right? So, like I mentioned, I've nearly completed the first book, but I understand, having read the premise on your website and also on the back of your second book, it's almost like a prequel that's sandwiched between your prologue and what's been going on in the first book. So where does the third book take us? The
third book's going to take you to do with the Masons. So it's called The Black Lodge, which is the third book. It's obviously I'm writing it now. And that's because there's a link there as well. There was this rumour that the Ripper was somehow connected with the Masons, who were very protective over certain people. It's a very secretive society anyway. It's not so much today, but certainly back in the day then it would have been. And I wanted to sort of build that, take people down that journey of that sort of very dark and secret societies that were born out of that time, with all the ritual that was associated with it. Very powerful people involved there, as they are today, I think. But it's more of a boys' club now, not so much of a, And I just thought it was an interesting area to take it, bring it back to London, bring it back to the streets of Whitechapel. And the lodge itself will be within the Whitechapel area anyway, so it's just an extension of that. But the final part leading up to, his mark on the world, I suppose, as we know it today. So yes, it's going to be. It's going to just carry on. The characters will carry on.
Damn.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. So the lady you said, I'm afraid will come back.
Okay. Can I make one controversial critique?
Right. Of course.
So, and this is controversial because it may be that it's just explained the bit of the book I haven't read yet.
Yeah.
And it may be, Sam, don't be an idiot. It's just in the next chapter. But so there's something that struck me as a bit inconsistent with one of the themes, and that's to do with this character's paranormal abilities.
Yes.
So there are plenty of times where, as you described, there's a seance going on.
Yeah.
And that's very powerful set of chapters there.
Yeah.
And there's other times where she comes into contact with an object or a another sensation, or I don't think it's a voice necessarily as one of them. But anyway, she might hold on to it. There's a bloody lock of hair that she holds on to, and she gets these, all these visions come to her, etc. And there's other objects that fall in a similar line. But there's one area in that where there's a time where she's attacked by an assailant who later is then falsely accused of doing the murders. And this assailant drops an object that ties him to the British Railway or something. And she picks it up. So she picks up the badge and just goes, oh, here's a badge. Here you go. Maybe that can show you where it is. And I'm thinking, wait, but are you not either A, supposed to get a premonition from holding this, or B, thinking, oh, I didn't get a permission from holding this? Oh, how strange.
Well, there's two factors at play here. First of all, you have to understand the dynamics, that the detective is very logical, very straight. He does everything by the book.
Yes.
And he's very, very skeptical about her powers. In fact, that dialogue goes on throughout the book. So she's very aware of that. And also she's not trying to take, to win the glory all the time. So she picks up the badge and also it's not necessarily something you switch on like a light, like a light switch. Sometimes that kind of connection might take a little bit longer. It may not even come. It just depends on the object and the time and the conditions. And so that time where she's in that place where that murder has happened is quite a brutal murder, and it's quite an emotional one as well because of the child, the ladies with the son. And I think at that point she just said, look, here's the badge, and passed it over. And that's quite a politically sort of sensitive thing. She doesn't want to keep saying, oh, I know this is connected to da. She may not have actually had that sense at that time. It may come later on.
It may come later on.
In fact, it did come later on when they were hunting the guy down, but
that would
it's more organic.
That rings true.
It's not going to be a situation where every time. I mean, I think it'd be quite dull if every time she picked an object up, she said, "Oh, this belonged to Sam Khan," or this. Oh
yeah, but
do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. But my thought was that it was interesting that it didn't happen.
It's kind of a turn of it because I didn't want her to be the know-it-all. I mean, you already dislike her now. So if we went one further and she knew everything, do you know what? Do you know why I dislike her?
She's damn inconsistent like that. That's why. It's your fault.
I can see that. I
either have powers or don't, all right?
If I'd known you'd be so angry, I would have actually probably put it in there that she knew everything. Just to annoy you. In fact, on the third one,
made it worse.
On the third book, we'll see her powers actually come even better, just to get the point across. But I think there's also a balance there, and it's a balance of sort of her relationship with Aberline, her relationship which is strained at times because they're completely different ends of the spectrum, and she didn't want to come. She's got to be careful. A woman at that time had literally no authority or power to her. Husband could come along and could have her committed at a drop of a hat because he wanted to remarry or claim the estate. It's a very, very difficult time for women to have any kind of life, particularly. So therefore, she's treading on eggshells a little bit here because she's also outside. She's not in the police, obviously.
Yes.
She's an outsider. She's an outside contractor, as we call it today. But she's acting on a completely different end of the spectrum. And over the period of time, he comes to respect that. But that's the early point in book one, where there's kind of this sort of going on, which he doesn't really want to get involved. He's pushing her back.
Yeah.
She's trying to gradually, look, this does work. This is something.
Yeah, and you have a good arc.
So you've got to be careful.
Yeah, you have a really good arc where you can see as the story develops that they quietly develop a mutual respect for each other.
Yes, they do. Yes,
and the way that they play off each other in those moments, because he mentions, I can't remember if it's your narration that mentions it or if Aberline himself mentions it, about, you say, the whole logical and methodical way by which he does his police work. That theme, we're constantly reminded of that, and that juxtaposition of using this this lady who's got the paranormal powers with her. But the way you do that interplay again, it's another way that we get invested of going, where's this feels like there's a completely separate story here.
Yes,
that may well develop in the chapters I haven't read, but it's
there is in a way, because it's her journey as well, not just his. And it's her journey about being more accepted. And that comes up a lot where she goes to the police station and she's cold-shouldered a lot by people who are it's very male-dominated again. So there's that acceptance that she's trying to get as well. And that she's not a freak show. This is actually, she has this ability to do this. But it's a gradual process. It's not a sledgehammer approach. Everything she touches, she's going to say. And she may not do it anyway, because it is an organic thing. It's not an automatic connection to any kind of object. It just takes, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. That's the nature of it. It's like, I think in the first chapter she's talking about in the seance where she said, you may be disappointed. They're not always going to show up when you want them to. And it's just the same process with her picking up an object. It doesn't always just happen. And I think that gives it a more realistic feel. Otherwise, it kind of loses its honesty. If every time she's on the ball, she's on the money, or this is that. And you kind of get, well, what don't you know? And you become even more enraged.
Well, indeed. We wouldn't want that.
We wouldn't want that.
That'd be Dawn of the Second Ripper, right?
You suddenly rip your shirt and go green. You wouldn't want to see me if I really get angry. That's what we're going for, André, in the third book.
My question about that.
About that?
What? My question. Well. Was obviously Sam and I also have a music background.
Yes,
I used to do a lot of songwriting.
Okay,
not sure about if you did or not, but there's a lot of that character building. You kind of need to build that character. You need to build those personalities. You need to build the atmosphere, the world, everything around it. But then there's also the fact that you're entertaining somebody, isn't it? Like you need to keep those moments entertaining. And we know nowadays, especially not too dark, hopefully not. Need to keep those people, those readers engaged or those listeners engaged. Is this also this moment, because I haven't read the book, I will read it. Is this also to keep that entertaining side, to keep that light alive, because you expect her to know, but you don't deliver on that? Was that purposeful? Purposeful, is that the right word?
Yeah.
You do expect her to know, but I think as any human, there's frailties in all of us and flaws in all of us, and I think that's what you have to build into any character to make them believable. Yeah. Otherwise, it becomes kind of superhuman, and the problem with introducing the supernatural into any kind of book really is that you've got to make it believable, and not just a
superpower.
You can lose that train of attention span a superpower. You can lose it very quickly if you go down the typical holes that have been dug before. And I think I've just tried to avoid that. I've just tried to make her, fallible, as we all are. And that light will carry on, yes, and go into the third book. I think also what I'm trying to do on another level is that relationship between the two gets better as we move forward, as it has in the second. There's the respect builds, the trust builds, as it does in in our own lives when we meet new people and you get to know them, you get to know their journey and their story, and you just understand them more. And I think that's where I'm going with this, this relationship really. Hopefully that's what's coming through anyway.
How do you keep, because obviously again talking about songwriting and that kind of and that side of things, I think to me that the interesting part here is obviously you've written a couple of books, there's another one coming, but the fascinating processes to me behind everything is the prior to having written the book and the after reading the book, or after writing the book. So in terms of prior, how do you what do you tap into to be able to keep a story gripping like that? it carries you through the trilogy now.
I think you just have to live it, really. You have to get up in the morning and just live that story. So it's on the board, I've got everything mapped out, but you've got to just live it in your mind. So every line you write, I think, it's every character you write, probably you're thinking, is that right? Is that not right? Can I put it in a different way? You're constantly fighting. You've probably done the same when you're writing a song. You might just write it and write the best song you've done in 2 minutes, or it might take you hours or days or weeks to write. And so you feel happy with that. And it's the same with writing a book, really. Sometimes those lines come very easily and you just flow through. And other times you have to kind of think it through a bit, plan it more. At the beginning, that's what you're doing, really. You're actually finding a story as well yourself. You're actually finding those characters and building on that. Yeah. But I just let it come as naturally as I can, really. I don't really have an answer of where it comes from. I wish I did, because, we'd all be happy. But at the moment,
especially Sam.
Especially Sam. Which would be nice to see you happy, Sam.
I know, right?
Because,
I do misery guts all day.
Well, I know. Let's just. I think we'll win you over slowly. We're getting there. I'm glad you're down that end, quite frankly, and Andre's in the middle. Because
the neutral mediator.
Or the punch bag. Depends how you want to look at it. But I think that's anyway. Sorry, I've gone off track now. But that's kind of where we're at. And then the after is really. I think it's great. I love the planning of the books, of writing it, how it's going to go, and then filling the gaps. You can't write everything. You can't do that. It'd be impossible. But you can have a structure, and then you fill the gaps in, which just flow through you. That's as best as I can really. It's very difficult to give you an answer now. I don't really know where that comes from. It just, as it does for you when you're writing a lyric or music, it just flows through you, doesn't it?
I think sometimes it does.
Sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. Sometimes you have to go away and
take a break.
Take a break. Yeah,
and sometimes plagiarize it. Sorry, Dad.
Yeah. AI. Yes.
So we touched quite a lot on the creative process, which is again like
it's a difficult thing to describe.
Of course,
isn't
it is. Yeah,
because it's different for everybody, but
it's intrinsic to you.
It's intrinsic to you, but I think there are similarities. It's difficult to say where it comes from, but there is, for me, as I say, some people can get up and probably sit down and start writing, and others, like myself, I like to have a structure to work to, because then you know what you're doing and you know where you need to get back to and things like that. But it's the excitement of doing it. I think that's what generates.
And I guess like coming off that then, so, and like we were saying earlier around how, the whole authorship is like a business with all these different other players in the game.
Yeah.
So here's something that I think would be really interesting to hear. And I'm sure this topic is vast, and there are probably multitudes of different avenues we could go down. But let's say somebody out here watching is an aspiring author. Let's say they've written that book, or they really feel like they've got that book nailed. How do they go from that to a physical book in a bookshop or Amazon or wherever it is? I know nothing of that world.
Yeah.
And I imagine a lot of people who are wanting to get into it know nothing about the world to start with. So, can you tell us a bit about that whole process?
Of course. I mean, there's two ways to do it. There's the traditional way, which is there's 5 big main publishers like Random House, Penguin, Hachette, Macmillan, Simon & Schuster, just to name a few. They're the big 5 or the big 4, whatever. And they're the ones that have many imprints as well. And then you have lots of small publishers now, or indie publishers that have come along over the last few years. And that's the traditional route where you would write or send in a number of chapters and a covering letter to them, and hopefully you may get an answer. You probably won't, but that's the reality. It's something like, it used to be like 1 or 2, probably 1%, maybe a bit more, pushing it at 1.5%, but let's say 1% of chance of a new author to get a publishing deal with a traditional publisher. Now it's less than half of 1%, and that's being generous. It's really tough. So, and there's lots of reasons for that because the whole platform, the whole model has changed drastically over the years with the advent of digital technology and with Amazon now coming in. And I think Amazon's actually been amazingly good and I really do. They have given a platform for people to put their work on, and that was never around before. And the traditional route is tough and it's hard, but you know, if you want to do that, then fine. You've got to wait 3-6 months before you get a reply. It's hard, and not everyone wants to do that. You may get a deal, you may not get a deal, you may get a deal you don't like. There's so many variations of that. With Amazon, you write the book, you have to be everything. They give you a platform. They say, hey, we've got a platform here. You can put your work on and sell it to a global audience, okay? But you have to do a lot of the work. Well, you've got to do all the work. You've got to write it, edit it, copy it. You've got to do the jacket design. You've got to do the formatting. You've got to adhere to their strict rules to get your book on the platform. You have to do your own marketing. You have to do everything. Yeah, okay. So that's what I mean. Yes. You run it like it's so good writing a book and thinking, I'll put it on Amazon, and in 6 months I'll be in Hawaii drinking a gin and tonic, and you know, everything's cool on my luxury yacht. That's not going to happen. It will be a bench in a Carfax. That's the reality, right? So
with a paper bag.
You've obviously been there.
Mate, I own that bench. You know?
I thought I saw you there, and you were miserable then as well. You should have been happy, quite frankly. Anyway, so that is. We've gone down another hole now. That is the way. So you've got self-publishing, or you've got the traditional path. They both have their pluses and minuses. But what Amazon's done amazingly is actually given a platform to people, you know, to actually, here's a chance, you can promote your work, but you've got to run it like a business, and that means you've got to spend money. Okay, there's no ways about it. You try to do it yourself, you can try to do lots of things, but you can't do everything. You know, I've got like the in-app book one is 90,000 words. Now, you can become word blind very quickly. I think there was only one author ever in the world that a publisher said he didn't need to even have it checked because he knew he was that good. One. The rest, even the best, all have their work checked, and you know, and the mistakes happen sometimes. It's just human nature. But if you're doing it yourself, you've got to find the right people to come on board who are going to do your copy editing, your structural editing. Does the story make sense? Your design, your formatting. So it's for ebooks, for digital as well as for print. You've got to find someone to design the cover, and if you want to do it, you can do it yourself, but I think the cover's really, really important. And, you know, it's the first thing people see. It's the first thing that's going to attract you to that book is is the look of it. So I think it's really important to spend not necessarily money, but time finding the right person who can do a good job for a reasonable amount. And that took me a long time to find the right people who I could work with as well. It has to have that same synergy, you know, have to be able to, has to be a joy to work with. And you set up things up like around that. If you're doing it yourself, like I use Simon at Horsham Web Designs. He's been an absolute joy to work with. Brilliant. And really, I think I'm his only writer he's got. He's got God knows how many thousands of other clients, but this was an anomaly for him to have me come along as a writer, and he's been brilliant. And then there's Michelle Betts at By Jove Media, who you know, and I've had a meeting with her recently, and she's laid out a really helpful social media plan for me, which has been great. So all these things you have to do, you have to be everything as well as write a good book. So it's a bit, it's a big ask. So anybody who's thinking out there, I've got this in me, these are the routes. There's only 2 routes to go. Amazon will give you a platform, but you've got to do the work, and that's fair enough. They're giving you a global platform, you know. So I think that's a good thing. And I think if you go down the traditional route, there used to be, and I think there is still, a bit of a sort of, I don't know, elitist form about, I'm traditionally published. And that's a good thing, but it's not necessary for everybody. And you have to choose what's right for you. And the day now, you know, there's a lot of celebrity writers now that come on board, and they've been on TV or radio or whatever, and they'll get a very good deal, and it's publicised a lot. rightly so. But the vast majority of people, the writers who are not famous, who don't have that celebrity status, won't necessarily get that same deal. And you have to be, and you wait longer. And people make a mistake of thinking, oh, a publisher's going to give me, let's say, £5,000 towards £5,000 for an advance. That advance, that money comes off your sales. So they don't just give you £5,000 and you walk away. If you start selling your books, that comes off that money. So therefore, you're paying back that advance out of your sales of your books. So it's not just a given.
Yeah.
You have to work for it, and also it's a pretty cutthroat industry. If the books don't sell, they'll cut you loose, and because it's a business, and you have to understand that. And I think that's so. It's horses for courses, but I think. Today now, they're both good routes. I mean, I've gone down the route of doing it myself, and I tried the other route. I would still look at the other route, but it's a longer game, and we'll see where it goes. And again, you have to work with a publisher that's right for you. There's a lot of times you might go there and they might want you to change the way you write. They might say, oh, Cozy Crime's in now. Maybe can you write a book like that? No, don't sell yourself out, because if you don't write that, don't write it. Write what you want to do. And that independently, that gives you that control over your work, which is important.
I think with everything in the creative space, and seems with writing as well, it's great that you have an end goal of selling a book.
Yes.
But I think the most important bit is that you actually enjoy the process of writing.
Yes.
And actually you want to write because you want to write, not because you want to sell books.
No.
Do you think there's a little bit of that? Because when, it's the same with songwriting, it's the same with poetry, plays, you kind of build them because you love. If you're going to go into writing because you want to be a millionaire by selling books.
It won't work. Yeah. You'll be on Sam's bench. Hopefully not with him, because it could be
you guys are already there. Not sure there's any more space, to be fair, but yeah, all right.
Exactly. So it doesn't look good, does it? So no, let's be honest. So that's not going to happen. And he wouldn't give up the bench anyway. Let's be honest. He'll hog it all. So I think you're right. You've got to write. You can't write a book. You can't write. I don't believe you can write a song or write a book unless that is in your soul. You've got to have that passion in you. And I write, and I don't really care what anybody thinks one way or the other. And that's the way you've got to be. You write because you love it. You love what you do, and that's the way I approach it. And if people love it, fantastic. If they don't, and there's human beings, nobody can love everything. You're going to have people who like your work and people who don't like your work. That's just a given. Especially if you put yourself out there, you're going to get criticism. Of course you are. That's just life. But you just have to roll with it. And if the passion is to write, that's what's important, and that's what motivates me. Obviously, yes, I want to sell books, but I want people to read my work. That's what's important. I want people to pick that up. I love this. This is great. I've never thought I would like something like this, but I've picked this up and I'm really into this now. I'm really enjoying the journey. And that means more than the money, to be honest, because I just think that's just so much more about what I'm about, and the longevity of that book as well, and that it carries on for other people, generations to even read, hopefully, down the line. And you do it for that, for the love of it. Don't do it for the money. I mean, it's nice to have, obviously, but it's tough, And I think people might have this illusion that, like Michelle is a writer. She's written a book, and Michelle Betts, and I think her husband said, "Oh, can I put my can I retire now?" She went, "No, that's not going to happen. No, out the door." It's a reality check that it's not. We all want that. Obviously, everybody wants to be successful, but I think your primary focus is that you must want to do it, because it's writing a book is hard. It's hours and hours of work, and and rewrites and doing all the rest of it. And it is, you have to really love it to do it, I think, and that's what I do. And the love comes from people read. Just hearing your comments is great, lovely. You could have gone the other way, of course.
Could have, yeah. It was there. The devil was on my shoulder.
Well, I know. In the mood you've come in tonight, anything's possible. I think, anything was possible. We just didn't know which way the coin was going to land, did we? Did we, André?
It was a good meeting, wasn't it, Sam?
That's a great meeting.
We're not going to mention the NHS here. We're not going down that road.
No.
Did I tell you about my new book about the NHS?
Yeah.
It's about this disgruntled doctor who just can't take it anymore. He snaps, and that's it. It runs amok.
So, am I voicing the audiobook? Is that?
No, you're everything. You're everything. You start off on a bench, right? And it progresses from there. Actually, that's the end of it. So it starts at the end, and then we go back to how you got to be on the bench.
We're Benjamin Buttoning this. Good.
Yes, we are.
Yes,
we're doing that. That's good. But in a quirky sort of way.
Yeah, of course, it has to be.
You're not a psychic, okay? We got that. We might not.
Much as much as you like to think he is. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Picking up objects. You might have a vision in one of your meetings. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
Suddenly glaze over. Yeah. A bit like Andre's doing now. For a different reason. Sorry, André. I don't want to pick on you. But, you are next to me.
Yeah,
and I did have to put up with it for 10 minutes. Well, longer than that, actually.
It was longer than that, but it was a good conversation. It was a very light, quite uplifting conversation.
I wouldn't say light. No, I wouldn't use that word.
So just for context, everybody, so I was about 15 minutes late for my own podcast, at which point I came home to find these two vagrants outside, devaluing the resale value of my house.
House prices.
Yes, you go and soup the interest rate for a song, actually.
So yes, back on topic.
Yes,
so
we digress.
We digress. So you mentioned those. I mean, broadly, you spoke about those two routes.
Yes.
The big publishers or any publishers versus self-publishing, and there's pros and cons to both that you mentioned.
There are many. Yeah.
I mean, one I'd really like to just understand a bit more about is. So the barrier to entry around the big publishers seems obvious, I guess, from the way you describe it. So
it is hard, yeah.
It's hard. 1% maybe if you're being generous.
Well,
half
of
get
1% now, I should think. Yeah.
And if you're waiting 3 to 6 months for a reply that may or may not come that just says no, that's a big deal.
That's crushing. Of course it is.
That's a big deal. But in the self-publishing side, then, so it sounds as though, and I'm just correct me if I'm not understanding this correctly. It sounds as though that you've got the platform that let's say Amazon provides.
Yes.
So then there's a big barrier to entry removed, but is it now another problem of there being an oversaturated market?
There are something, I don't know the exact figure, but I was in the thousands of books being uploaded to Amazon on a daily basis.
Okay.
Globally. There's a .com company. So globally, let's say, not just to the UK. So yes, you could say that. And that would be fair to say is true, but it's not. It's a cross genre. It's not just all crime, or it could be romance. It could be there's so many subcultures within the genres anyway. So it's not just crime is obviously a big one, thrillers, crime, and even the publishers are obviously on Amazon anyway. So you're up against them, their books, their top sellers, they're all on there, as well as the self-published people. But yes, it is. I wouldn't say saturated. It's a difficult one because Amazon have got a lot stricter lately, and rightly so. So they're weeding out a lot of the trash that was on there that got through. That's now changing rapidly, and it's quite hard now to get up there to the standards. So I think it's great, and I think that's just beneficial to everybody, really. You're always going to have competition, and there are more self-publishing authors now than obviously there used to be, for the fact that it's hard to get a traditional deal. That's why. There are two ways to look at that. You can build up your reputation as a published author with social media, and your Amazon will provide you with the tools also to do that. So then you have a good enough clout yourself to go to a publisher and say, right, here you go.
Yeah,
or actually, I would imagine what they do, and I think this is true, that they're probably scouting anyway. If they've got any kind of intelligence, they're going to go on Amazon. They're going to look at those books that are selling well. Yeah. They say, "Oh, he or she is a self-publisher." We'll approach them. We'll find out, and they'll have a website or social media, and that happens. I'm sure that happens because it's a given, isn't it? If you've got a book on there selling well, or interesting, or different, and people are talking about it, then they're going to think, "Oh, this is interesting. We'll go and nab them." And why not?
Yeah, exactly. Why not? You would do that.
And
exactly on that point.
It's a shop, it's a sweet shop. Why not go and do that?
And exactly on that point is that, this is where I think we can both relate to this side of things, in the sense that, like you say, it is a business. You are having to do everything right. You've got to get the marketing right. You've got to get the you in your realm, the editors right. For us it may be other subcontractors that we need to be happy with. But just like you say, if I was, as a photographer in my photography business, going up on against a sea of photographers where somebody had 100,000 Instagram followers versus whatever I might have. It's similar. You're talking about the whole view of Amazon, or any scouts might go and say,
but you can't
you're selling this.
But if you think like that, you'll never get up and do it.
Oh,
this is the problem.
The point I'm making,
just get up and do it.
No, absolutely. The point I'm making is that it's therefore very beneficial for somebody who is trying to self-publish it to understand from the start that you are working as a business.
Yes.
And I think, and we've made the point already, but I guess I would imagine lots of people who are in that space, just because I've never been in it, maybe are naive to that.
They may be, and I think that's the problem. I think they do think that it's just suddenly going to magically happen. Yeah. Even if you get a publisher coming along, a lot of the time now, unless you're a big name, like I say, like a celebrity, they're going to do everything for you, obviously, because they've got hundreds of thousands of followers, so they don't need to, they need to worry. They're going to sell the book. So, but with anybody else, I think a lot of what happens today is they might say, okay, we like you, we like your work, we'll give you, let's say, a 2 or 3 book deal, maybe a 2 book deal if they don't know you that well. Here's an advance, but we're going to do the jacket design, we're going to do the formatting, we're going to do the editorial work on it, but you're going to do the marketing. You're gonna be responsible for doing this, and this, because it's a kind of a hybrid. Because it's a risk thing here. For them to put the money, the time, the effort, it's a high risk. Most books don't make the money. A lot of books don't make the money. They come out, they do their job, they do, and they just don't. For
whatever reason,
it just doesn't work. So. And so the books that do work for them, that's where they gain their revenue, really, the high profile ones. But it's difficult for them to make that judgment call. I get that. But if you're coming from a point where I'm coming from, well, I'm doing this myself and I'm running it like a business, and I've got this, and this, and I've got these readers saying this about my work, then I'm an attractive prospect for them. Because you've already proved a point by running it as a business, by running it and not just sort of dreaming up an idea, but running it like a proper business, that you're structured with it. And it's not just, obviously the book's got to be good, but also that you know what you're about, you know what you're doing. So they're taking on, the risk is less averse for them by taking someone on that's been through that process, as opposed to someone who's completely new to it and doesn't know anything.
And that resonates so well, because we've had guests on before, we've had business coaches on before who, I forget who it was that mentioned it, but there was a really powerful statement about, why do we start businesses? We start business because you're good at something, or you love something, or there's a passion behind it, and you want to share that, and however it may be. And that's why a lot of people start businesses, but they don't realize how to run a business. So, which is, hey, like,
well, some learn. Some, to be fair, some people learn as they go.
No, this is it,
and they're good at it. They're just naturally, organically good at it. You know,
but it
others
is.
aren't.
It's just that realization. The quicker it comes, the better. You know, because and I know I've been through that journey 100%. I hold my hands up and say that's exactly what I did. I love photography. Want to do this. Want to do that. But wait, I don't know anything else. Okay, let me learn that. Let's learn it. Let's develop. Let's bring it through. And those are the things. If I turn back and look at myself starting it, being like, oh man, you should have just done that at the start. You should have done this. Should have done that. And it's really great to hear from you, Matt, that actually, you've clearly. I mean, you're successable enough already to have these books out, but you've clearly been there, done it, bought the Skull T-shirt, I'm the guy who's moody. Yeah. Anyway, so there's you
don't wear it on a sleeve. Yours is internal. Yours is more of a worry because we can't see what's coming.
But it's great to have that insight from someone who's been there and done it, and hear the way you're talking about it, understand the clear, in-depth understanding you have behind the process.
I want people to write. Really, I want everybody to go out and write that book that they've got in them, and please do it. Because it's a very rewarding job to do. It's great, and I love it, and I wouldn't do anything else in the world. This is what I do, and I think everybody should go and do it. If you want to do it, do it. And the tool set is there for you to do today, whatever path you go down. But what I'm saying is that we live in a super competitive world now. Everything is on point, and you've got to be aware of how the technicalities of it work. You've got to be aware of social media. You have to be aware of so many processes that are involved with writing and producing a book. It's not just writing the book. And I think once you've got your head around that, and you, like you were saying, and you understand all these different layers, you almost have to put that aside and say, well, okay, I understand that now. Now I can get back to do what I really want to do, is write a book. But I do need to have that afterwards to promote it and to sell it and for people to read it, and to enjoy it. But it is important to have that understanding that it is a business. It has. I don't think you could approach anything much these days without having that kind of. You're right. People do go into. Well, you hope people go into business because they have a passion for whatever it is they do, and I think that's what drives through to make people successful. Like your photography and my writing and André's music. We're all very passionate about what we do, and that just shines through, and that's what drives us forward, and I think that's what you need. Ultimately, anyway, it's that passion, and the business will come, as you say. And some people are just good at it anyway, and other people. I mean, I come from the business world before, so I have that. I've dealt with very big companies. So I'm used to that level. So I came into this with that experience as well, which is good. But I still had to learn a whole new way of doing things. It's just. And I say you've got to have the right team around you. So that's really anybody who's wanting to do this. Do put your time in to get the right. If you're going down a self-published route, just get the right team. There's lots of people out there, so just choose the one that you can have that synergy with. Really,
that's an important message to have.
Sorry if I'm going.
No. I was just going to ask a direct question from that. So I think to me, listening to what you've been saying has just been so inspirational. I would just like to know from you. Obviously, I'm in that same boat where when I started out, I loved videography. I knew I wanted to do that because I had a really big passion for it. Yeah. But what stopped me initially was the huge mountain of business information, processes, jargon that you need to understand, or I thought you needed to understand before even taking your first step. Yeah. I then found out that actually I'm just going to take the first step and I'll learn everything as I go. I still haven't. But
hey man,
look how far you are now. So when you were when you're at the door and you put that first step outside of that door into this great unknown, and I do the same. I look back and I had this conversation with my wife actually, who's one of the most important people in this whole journey. Really, has been so supportive. And I look back then and I look at that time when I stepped outside into this great unknown and all these processes that you speak about that you've got to learn. It is daunting, but you get there. and you do it bit by bit. It's like taking chunks, a bit at a time. And that's what you need to, that's the way to approach it. You can't learn it all in one day. Amazon's processes are, they're fairly laid out there, but you've got to read them. You've got to understand them. If you go on the forum, it's very interesting on Amazon's forums for KDP, which is the platform where you put your books on. There is littered with people saying, I've been thrown off, or this hasn't happened, or my book won't get uploaded. And you get these people who've seasoned authors on there who do a great job of helping people, who say, did you read Amazon's terms and conditions? Did you actually sit down and read that? The reason your book didn't get uploaded is because you put AI in it, or you've done it as an AI copy, or you just hasn't read their basic terms and conditions to get your work published. And that's what I mean. You've got to go back to basics. You've got to understand that you've got to understand the animal you're dealing with. And publishing is a difficult one at best. But if you understand the processes, you're halfway there. And they take time, but, it's trial and error. But if you just don't do that and expect it just to, I'll go out and shoot a wedding and it'll be marvellous. And, Spielberg could be on the phone next time saying, come along, I need you. And,
You're still waiting for that call.
I'm sorry. I'm going to tell him now, the call isn't coming, right? I'm going to crush you now. The call isn't coming. I'm sorry, man. As good as you are, I can't see it happening. But hey, you never know. You never know. Anything's possible, of course it is. But I just think, it's also about being realistic, isn't it? And doing things in layers. That's the way my background is anyway. Is doing things in manageable layers and manageable chunks. And then that business side of it, it's not the fun side, but it's a necessary side. It's same for you, same for me. We have to do it. We have to have all these things in place to be able to excel at what we really want to do.
I think, to be fair, my question was going to be,
sorry,
if someone's starting out...
To be fair, I think it just came from projection, right? Because basically, he just wants Spielberg to direct the film adaptation of his books.
If he's looking.
And I can do it.
I don't know what to say to that.
Hey man, Spielberg as Zeferino. I know who I'd go with, is what I'm saying.
Well, André's cheaper.
How do you know? Have you asked him his rates? How do you know?
I had that conversation outside. He said he'd work for nothing, quite frankly.
My question was going to be, for someone who's just starting out, that obviously comes across this huge mountain of the business side of things, what would your advice be to that person? But to be fair, considering everything, I think you have already provided so much good advice. So I just wanted to know if you have any more that you want to add to that, because obviously people get discouraged, don't they?
Yes, of course. You want to. Anybody should be encouraged to do it, but it's just really, you just got to keep at it. You got to be persistence. We were talking about this actually before Sam turned up. And we were talking about persistence. We were talking about...
Just keep waiting.
Yes,
he will come.
You were saying, we have to stay calm. We have to be persistent. He will turn up. And you did. Here
I am.
Here you are. I can say honestly, it was worth the wait.
Fashionably late, mate.
Fashionably late, yes, exactly. But I just think just be persistent and just keep going. Because like everything, you might think you've got to, you get some good news coming along, you get some bad news coming along. You just have got to keep your head down and keep going and keep persistent and keep that content going out. For me, it's another book. And it's just keep pushing through. And I think the people that succeed at the end of the day are those people that just are driven to by their passion, and that above all else is what really matters. So that's my advice. Really, is just to just keep doing it, and don't let other people. Don't listen to what anybody else says. It matters what you think and what you're happy with it, and you're pleased with the result. That's what matters, because there'll always be someone who's not pleased with it. And there'll be people who are. But you mustn't think about that. You just got to get down and write it and that's what I would urge anybody to do. If they've got it in you, do it. You know, my hat's off to anybody who wants to do it. Writing is a wondrous thing to create worlds. Really, that's what we're doing. You're creating worlds. And I think, you know, in this age of TikTok and all this other stuff, it's nice. It's lovely to be able to sit down and read a book, isn't it? Lovely. It's a lovely thing to do. Books are lovely, and there's different formats. Obviously, you can read them on. But I do think however you're reading it, to read a story that someone's created from their imagination, it's quite incredible.
That is incredible.
And to enjoy it, and to take you and to live it and breathe it. As you were describing earlier on, I think, well, I'm really pleased to hear that, because it means I've done my job.
I mean, there's something something that you said that just sparked something for me. You talk about, you know, there's something like reading a book, different formats, etc., etc. But one thing that just reminded me of, there's something, obviously this might seem a bit trite, but the cover of this, everything, how it feels in the hand.
Yes.
There are times where I was reading certain bits where I could feel my fingernails digging in to that silk mat, and there's something because of how vivid things were. There's the real sound coming through. But isn't it kind of like you sort of feel some of the chills that you feel from reading some of this stuff actually is enhanced by that experience of holding that book in your hand.
Yes, I think it is.
That to the point where if I was reading on a Kindle, I wouldn't get that.
No, I mean, print books are still far outsell globally, far outsell digital books, ebooks, which I think is a good thing. I personally think it's a great thing, because I think for the next generation to come through, to pick a book up, to read it, it's a tactile object, and it's something that connects you. And I think as humans, we love that, to be able to feel and touch an object, rather than just, you know, we use screens so much, don't we, in our day-to-day jobs, whether you're writing, whether you're doing it in an office or whatever. It's that constant screen in front of you, and I think it's quite lovely to be able to read another media, pick up a book, feel the pages, feel the paper, look at the print, look at the. It is. I think it's well worth to do that.
It's part of the experience. I mean,
it is part of the experience. It's all part of it. I know they're heavy and things. If you're going abroad, you might, but you know, at the end of the day, you're not going to get that experience necessarily on a tablet, are you? Really?
No, and in every industry, you know, we talk about. You know, people don't remember what you said, what you did. They remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And I think a big important part of, particularly with the genre and the way that you write it, I think that is an integral part of it. I'd encourage anyone who's looking into reading this to get the book.
Oh, thank you.
Because it adds another dimension that I was never conscious of until I was reading it on a plane, and it was very much of, I'm really gripped into this, and because it's quite a distraction-free environment, I'm really starting to feel that my hands are gripping these pages in a different way, and I suddenly became conscious of that. There was a moment that I suddenly became conscious that I was doing it. I thought, oh wow! Like again, had I not had the book with me, I would have missed out on that entirely.
Yeah, I think you would have done. And I think that's the importance of bookshops, and everybody should go and support your local bookshop. It's so important, because if you don't, they won't be there. It's simple as that.
Exactly.
We've lost so many over the years, but I think they are really integral to the society, and they're really important to, you know, if you love something, please go and buy a book there. It is important to do that, to support them as well, because they do a great job. And I think it is a long may they carry on books as they are in this format. And but times change and things change, so you know, we have the best. People also read them on Kindles and tablets as well. But I agree. I think it's, from my point of view, just a personal point of view, I think it's nice to have that tactile and put it on the bookshelf, and it's there. You come down, you see it, and you look at it, and it's there it is. You know,
I can only say this is the first time I've actually appreciated that. So
there's a first for you then as well.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of firsts.
I wasn't lying when I said it was the first book I've ever read.
there's a lot of first here, isn't there, for you? You know, because you've not gone sort of crossed that threshold into this genre before.
Yeah, that's true.
You've got it immersed into it. It is. Has it changed you?
A character I despise, and this is where you're going to tell me that actually this is based on your wife or something, right? And
No,
some people love the character, you know.
A bit of divorce story on the phone.
But I think it's so important to obviously it's so easy to just stick to what you know, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it's more and more it's so important to actually just get out of your comfort zone and read something different or read something for the first time.
And do something different. You know, if you want to do music or if you want to write a book, you want to do something different with, you know, life is short and it's good to do something different and if you have a passion for something, do it. You know, that's my advice. That's what I've done. That's what you've done. And I think we're all three of us are sitting around the table. We're kind of adverts for that, aren't we? To say, look, you can, if you want to follow your passion, do it.
Absolutely.
And I think it's so rewarding, personally. You know, and it's never easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's not worth it if it becomes easy, is it? I think it's good just to push your boundaries and see where you can go with it. And I'm sure your music and your filming will come through as well.
The ship has sailed.
Right, on that note, back to the bench.
I don't want to bring you down anymore. I mean, you know, no, we won't talk about your music anymore. But obviously, that ship. I would go so far to say similar to the Titanic, possibly. It's at the bottom of the ocean somewhere, alone, dark,
Occasionally
cold.
visited,
Occasionally visited,
gonna end up like
not
this.
very often, and you won't find it in any library. Other than that, it's great.
No, but I just find it so interesting how, you know, with you as writing, with Sam as photography, with me as videography, but we've all also have other passions, other hobbies that we do. But for some reason, even though we love them, we are unable to pursue them to the same level that you pursued writing, that I pursue video, that Sam pursues photography. And I just find it so interesting and was just going to ask you what kind of pushes you, as one of the last final questions, to keep going?
Just the love of it, really, and the fact that people will read it, I think. And I think that's just... I write because I want people to read my work. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's what makes me want to continue with it. It's just that people reading it, and I love to have that feedback coming. That's great, isn't it? You know, someone says, I read this and it really, you know, really gripped me, or it sort of unnerved me. Somebody said that to me who'd read it and said that, you know, it unnerved them, and I thought, this is just exactly what I wanted.
I can entirely believe that.
You know, this is what I wanted to hear, because there isn't anything. You know, I'm trying not to go down that typical route of gore, and you know, you should be able to do that with words alone, and just the way you craft it and sculpture those words around, you should be able to get those emotions through without making it blatantly obvious. And that's what I've tried to do there. And I think that that's what drives me. It's just that doing a next story and the next story and going down another journey and exploring different avenues and different people and different relationships. But also bringing real, you know, things that have happened. You do as a writer, you bring in the people you've met and the experiences you've had. Somewhere that comes out. I think that's true of anybody, really.
Have you ever encountered someone that told you how the book made them feel, or the emotions or the worlds they created in their own head, and then you were like, well, actually, that makes... I don't see where you got that from.
Well, it's... I'm not going to say any names, but we have someone sitting right opposite us. I mean, let's just take the bait, shall we? And I honestly thought I was coming into an intellectual discussion about writing, but it's now, this is where we are. This is where we are. It's honestly, it's like Janet and John. It's just, I think really that, no, I don't even know what you said now. I'm sorry.
He's just so focused on just attacking me. You just don't even remember what the question was.
Well, because he's fallen apart here. He's supposed to be my straight man. He's completely fallen apart.
Unreal.
Useless.
Unfreaking real.
How do you do this on a weekly basis? I don't know. I mean, it's collapsed. But what was the question?
Yeah. The question was, have you encountered someone giving you feedback or telling you about the emotions they felt or the world they built in their mind? That was a real surprise. You didn't see that coming, any of that?
I can't think of anything specific, but I think there was... Oh, I know, this is interesting, where you have the mortician, Cripps, who's a vile character.
Yeah.
And they said, actually, it was the husband of the MP. He was an MP, his wife went missing.
Yes.
And it was a husband which they detested more than they actually did someone like Chris, which is very interesting because, yes, the man was not a very nice man, but I wouldn't have put him in the same camp as as somebody like the mortician, who was obviously selling bodies and all sorts of
complicit.
There's various practices going on down there. So that was interesting that they
did they say why?
No, they didn't really. Just said that they took an instant dislike, a bit like you did with one of the protagonists, yourself. It's just something that you drew on. I suppose when you create those characters off the page in your head, you are recreating them as you see them, for their faults and their and their positives.
Because we always relate, characters like this to characters that we know or experiences that we've had ourselves, right? So I can imagine that with the MP, that the way that you talk about him is very much the caricature of what you were saying earlier about what Victorian society was like.
View,
so he was very much an embodiment of that, wasn't he?
He is. Of course he is. He's ex-army and he has a very dim view of women in any kind of position, which was the reality of that time.
And I don't know who this person was who gave this feedback, but I can imagine potentially that they view that with such disdain, as some people might. That overpowers the rather explicitly awful things that Cripps does and gets up to in his mindset, and how he is so easily but rather purposefully swayed to be doing some pretty nasty stuff. I can imagine that societal disdain may be so strong for somebody that actually that is more of a...
Yeah, it could well be that. And it's in their head they've created that because that's their view, a worldview anyway, and that just reinforces it, doesn't it? Yeah. But what I wanted to do, it's also an educational point, that's how it was. And we've come leaps and bounds since those days, thankfully. But I just think that it also educates people how it was for women in those days. It really was, very different. You couldn't go to the press, you couldn't do anything. There was nothing, nowhere to go. So that maybe it was that the embodiment of that man was, the reason why they disliked him so much.
Okay.
And I guess but that was just something that came out from a discussion with someone. And I like to hear that. Yeah. Because not that it changes anything, but it's interesting to hear their point of view, really. And I think that's what you do, isn't it? Are you okay now?
I am okay now. All good.
Don't want you collapsing anymore.
No. Let's not start that again. So obviously we have the 2 books out.
Yes.
When can we expect to see the third?
That will be coming out in February.
Oh.
So that will be out in February.
That's by the time I finish editing this podcast, it will probably take us to March. So
I would imagine, Well, once we get past the sort of the maritime,
20 minutes
it's the references, the collapsing.
It's just the decision is: do I keep this in? Do I risk it? Do I not? These are the things.
We knew it was going to be edgy.
Yeah,
you did say that to me.
I said it right
when
at the
you
beginning.
stupidly asked me to come and do this. You said, I could see that look in your eye, thinking, oh, it's that moment. Was that a sensible thing to do?
Can I uninvite him?
No, you can't. Well, you did try. You stood me up, didn't you?
Well, yes, we were supposed to be recording this a couple of weeks from now, but yes.
Blew me out. Yeah, it's terrible. Heartbroken.
So, usually the final question that we ask everybody who comes on is...
No, I won't come back.
No, you won't come back. It makes this bold assumption that it's going to be exciting. It makes this bold assumption that he's going to be invited back anyway, So, I mean, whoa. Talk
Why
about,
would
talk
not
about
be-
egos and authors, right?
Why would not be invited back after this? We found out more about André than you've known in
Well,
a
that's true.
lifetime.
Yeah, that's true. It's been an educational experience for us all. So look, we've heard a fascinating journey about how you got into writing, where it all came from, the passions, and how you've developed these 2 books and soon to be your 3rd. But what's the future of Matt Ross, the author? Where do you see yourself going? What's in your pipeline? Where are you trying to get to?
That's a good question.
I know, that's why I asked it.
It's very insightful. I think for me personally, I will probably be looking. It's a difficult one because I'm enjoying the process I'm at the moment. Sure. But I think for me, in the longer term, it'll be good to go under a publisher. I think for me, that's just my journey. That's what I would probably aim for in the future if the right thing comes along.
What would that gain you? What would you?
That will gain me some release from doing everything yourself and concentrate on the writing, which is really what I'd love to do. I do, it's the other side of it is great and it's necessary, but I would like to also just focus on that writing, and that's really probably where I would be looking to go. So if there's any publishers out there who's looking for something new and interesting and
haven't been put off by all the shenanigans in this podcast.
No, well, most of that will be edited out, so hopefully there won't be much left. It'll be, this is Matt. What would you like to say? There's a whole 2 hours. It will actually become a cult classic. I could see that in the future. That's where did André actually go? What happened to him? Did he vaporise in front of our eyes? There's just a puddle of water. Which we'll bottle and probably put on Amazon. Yeah, why not?
It's a platform for all.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, but Matt, it's great to great to hear that you are enjoying the moment. I mean, and the fact that you've got those ambitions around that are centered around you focusing on what you're good at, what you love, and working towards that in this kind of almost full circle moment. That's why you started it. That's where you're also trying to get to, right? Yeah. And you've been, your tenacity to do it is, we've got the proof in front of us, but it so shines true to your message that you were telling us before about, just if you've got the passion, just keep at it, go for it, hold it, harness it, and you're own it, and you have embodied that today, and that's been, and like André said already, like it's been inspiring to hear.
Well, thank you. I really genuinely thank you for having me along. It's been great, and it's been I've never done this before, so it's new to me as well. So it's been great to come along and talk about the work and to chat about the process, because I want it to be inspiration as well for other people, because I'm sure there's many people who will listen to this who will think, oh yeah, that maybe that's given them the impetus to actually sit down and get on with it, and that's what you need to do. And everybody should do that if you want to do it. It's a great thing to do, and thank you for the time to hopefully inspire other people to become the next authors along the line. And thank you, André, as well.
I knew that was good. I just knew it was good.
Did you notice a slight bar with that at the end?
No, thank you so much for coming on. It's been actually really inspirational.
It's been great. It's been really good. Yeah,
where, if people want to find out more about you, if there's any more news coming, if they want to keep on top of everything, Matt Ross, where can they go?
They can go to the website, which is mattross-author.com, and they can go there. That's the best place, really. And on there are the contact details, the email and everything. So mattross-author.com, go there, and you can find about the latest news, the blogs I'm writing, and obviously the books, and what I'm going to be doing in the future. Or if they want to contact me, obviously they can go through that. That's the place to do it. But thank you anyway for that, being able to pass that information over. Because you never know, who's hearing and who's going to. This is the whole fun, isn't it, of this whole journey, I think.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
Well, no, you don't know.
Just don't know.
And that's why we, one of the biggest reasons that we, got someone, an author to come onto our podcast is because it's an unknown for us, and we love to know about the people in our community who are delivering some amazing things. Why shouldn't we share that with everybody?
No, it's really
that?
kind of you to do that, and I really, thank you from the bottom of my heart that you've given me this space to come along and talk about it. It means a lot, so thank you.
It's been a massive pleasure, Matt. So thank you
very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.